Games Workshop have finally updated Beasts of Chaos, an army that I play, and they're now going to be absolute powerhouses! Yes, it is my time to shine. All will fear my Beasts of Chaos. But the manner with which Games Workshop have decided to bring out this upgrade has got me really concerned and has so many issues with it, so let's talk about it. Well, Professor, you've finally done it. You've finally invented the time machine. Tell me, where will be your first destination?
Heading back 6 years before the Robot Wars! February 18th, 2022.
Huh, that's an odd date. Why are you going to go back to the terrible 20s?
There's an issue of White Dwarf, sold for 1 month only. First and only time the Beastmen were competitively viable. I've spent 30 years building this machine so that I can finally win some fucking games with my Beastmen. I'm coming for you, motherfuckers. Yeah.
Huh, who cares about Beastman? Hey everyone, my name is Discourse and Chaos Beastman got updated this month. Woohoo, finally! I am, in theory, very happy about this. For the longest time, Chaos Beastman, Beasts of Chaos, whatever you want to call them, they have sucked. Okay, they have been really, really rubbish. They're just so bad, Like cows in the field, they have been destined for slaughter. Sorry, PETA. And Chaos Beastmen have always had a bit of a raw deal, to be honest. Which is kind of ironic considering the fact that they do strike me like the type of folk who don't know how to cook. Even back in the olden days of Warhammer Fantasy, long before Age of Sigmar, they were always pretty rubbish. Their entire faction design is that of the hard-hitting army on the charge. They got big horns and bigger axes and even bigger Yeah, no, I don't think I can get away with that last one. They are lightly armored with huge monsters. Essentially, they are glass cannons who rely on using the terrain and ambushing to their advantage, which has made them pretty difficult to balance in Warhammer. As a faction, they are very much feast or famine, which, you know, they like feasts, cause famines. I know it was bad. But they really have suffered for this design philosophy. Either their charges are just far too strong, their mobility is great, and they're just able to catch their opponents completely out of position, unawares, and devastate them without their opponents even getting a hit back in. This is not fun for the opponent at all. Alternatively, their charges are just too weak. They are caught out of position and don't get to achieve much. And this isn't fun for the Beasts of Chaos player. When Beastmen are put down on the table, the question is always, will they get their charge off? If yes, then victory. If no, then loss. Not superb game design. And really, this is a difficult task for any game designer, anyone seeking to balance factions in a game like this. However, this is ostensibly what they are paid badly to do. I'm talking about the design of Chaos Beastmen today because these were the thoughts that were going through my mind as I ordered in this month's White Dwarf from Games Workshop. This isn't something that I regularly do, but in this magazine, in this month, Chaos Beastmen, my chosen faction for Age of Sigmar, are getting buffed. They're getting updated. And this has been a long time coming. I have played many games with Beasts of Chaos, and I have lost many games with Beasts of Chaos. I have won. But perhaps with these new rules, I can win a game for once. It was the rules that were holding me back, not me. Very important, that part. At least for my own self-esteem, anyway. But it's roundly agreed that the Beasts of Chaos are pretty poor, pretty weak, and they have needed an update for the longest time. And so, if I begin to win some games, what a potentially brilliant feeling that will be. And it certainly got me to spend money on a game that, I'll be honest, is increasingly marginalized on my table. I have not been playing Age of Sigmar as much as I used to. And Beasts of Chaos have indeed been super hungry for updates. They haven't been updated since September 2018 during the second edition of Age of Sigmar. That's almost 4 years ago now. And even back then, their battle tome was released and it wasn't particularly powerful. They were bottom of the rung at their height. That's kind of sad. And every year since then, power creep has swept into Age of Sigmar as new factions have gotten new battle tomes, they've gotten more powerful. Beasts of Chaos, nope. And so, as Games Workshop, in their mad, frenzied rush to sell new models, made all of their opponents stronger, Beasts of Chaos have just gotten worse and worse and worse. And let me tell you, I felt it. I felt it pretty bad. My Ungors are not great. And with every game that I played where I struggled against these ancient rules that were no longer fit for purpose, I could not help but think that the designers of Age of Sigmar are bad at their job. Or at the very least, the management that was allocating their workflow was failing at their job. But I have been patient. I have waited for my beloved Beast Boys to get their venerated update. And not folded into a Warriors of Chaos battle tome, that threat has hung high over our heads for many a year. I am well versed with that particular sword of Damocles. But lo, Games of Workshop have decided that now is the time. Kevin Roundtree has looked down upon me from his lofty perch. He has pointed right at me and said, "You." And admittedly, if he did actually point at me in a crowded room, I genuinely wouldn't know who he is. I cannot stress enough how hard it is to find a picture of this guy. I have no idea what he looks like. But in any case, he has given me now the opportunity, the chance to spin the roulette wheel of balance. Will the Beastmen be strong? Will they be weak in their new update? Let's find out. Feast or famine, feast or famine, feast or famine. Also, I'm aware of the fact that the businesses don't run according to the rules of Richie Rich. I know he's not making minute little business decisions here and there, but you know, it's an imagery. Stick with me here, okay? I mean, he's hardly looking at the designs of demonettes going, make it bigger. Maybe he is actually. Who knows with these people? I don't know what's going on up there. But which way will the roulette wheel spin? Will Beastman have a bite of the apple? It's the question that everyone asks whenever their army gets updated. Is this going to be another 3 years of misery, or is it going to be actually a pretty good time? Am I going to absolutely dominate everyone? As someone who has been collecting Dark Eldar for over 10 years now, I'm used to losing with them quite often. Now I'm used to not playing them because no one will play me anymore because they're far too strong. But the update for Beastman, are they now the flavor of the month? And the answer is maybe. Probably so. Well, people seem to think so. The consensus seems to be that Beasts of Chaos are looking really strong with these new updates. I'm not 100% sure myself. I have seen many community meltdowns over whether or not a faction is far too good or far too weak, you know, weeks before the release of a codex, only to then find out that everyone was wrong and it's the complete opposite way. It takes a couple of games, it takes a codex or a battle tome or a rules update to marinate in the community for a while before we will truly know the balance of that faction or the impact of those updates. But nevertheless, the narrative right now is Beasts of Chaos are gonna slam.
Everybody get up, it's time to slam now.
And as a result, I have seen many people begin to snap up pictures of their new Chaos Beastman. Armies are being bought, money is being exchanged, trade is being facilitated. With a mere whisper, Games Workshop have created a lot of new cash for themselves, or at least made secondhand sellers on eBay considerably richer. Are these people who have always been interested in Beasts of Chaos but say that the fact that the army isn't competitively viable has frightened them off? I mean, maybe. We know that even the most casual players out there do pay attention to the competitive metagame of these types of games when they're making their purchases. Goonhammer had a really good article on this very recently with a link in the description below. But certainly some of these new Beasts of Chaos players have been attracted to this faction because of the new rules. Or more so, shall I say, the fact that the rules are considered to be good. I doubt that we would have seen half as many new people picking up Beastman if these rules were considered to be pretty rubbish. Or at the very least, just kind of okay. I'm sure that a lot of people have looked at these new rules, thought, looking great, that's for me. And I have to guess that a couple more have just heard about the hype of the new rules and thought, I don't know why this is going to be good, but Apparently it is, so let's all aboard the hype train. I'll take 1 Beasts of Chaos army, please. And that's sort of fine. I mean, I don't want to yuck in anyone's yum here, but it's interesting, isn't it, that this all takes place. And yet the models are still the same. Nothing fundamentally has really changed. All that has happened is that some miniatures have gotten updated rules in a magazine, a very antiquated medium at this stage. But in a sense, this is better than a full battle tome, right? It's cheaper, at least. White Dwarf only cost me £7 only. Why did I write only in this script? £7 is a lot of money. I mean, I guess it's better than the £35 I would have spent on a battle tome. I mean, I guess. Kind of a Sophie's choice there, though. I mean, it's gotta be said that £7 for a magazine and only a couple of pages out of that magazine is a little bit of a raw deal. And you know, as I decided to pick this magazine up, all that would go through my head was this could have been emailed to me. Surely these new rules took around an afternoon to write. I mean, I want rules creators to get paid. I want them to get paid a lot more than they currently are. I mean, as creatives in this industry, they are woefully underpaid. But call me naive here, but aren't the rules for miniatures value added onto the miniatures? Shouldn't rules creators, rules designers be paid out of the money that is spent on those miniatures? I mean, if nothing else, with these new rules coming out, people are buying new Beasts of Chaos. Surely some of that money should be going to the rules guys, right? So why am I then paying for the rules? This is just Games Workshop providing me with what would be the equivalent of a video game patch. A simple suite to keep me on my way. And in a time-limited fashion too. I mean, this thing is only available to buy during February. There are a limited number of these being produced. So what about Timmy? What about that kid that has never played Warhammer before, but next month will see a Gore model and just absolutely fall in love with Beasts of Chaos? What's he going to do? Well, if he wants this rules update, he'll travel backwards in time. God forbid he wasn't playing Warhammer on time. And I'm sorry, but I don't find it reasonable to expect new players to break time and space in order to get all of the rules for their faction, or even existing players. Who really keeps up with what's in the next White Dwarf magazine? I mean, when you Google the words White Dwarf magazine, the top question asked is White Dwarf magazine still being published? It's a joke. It's increasingly irrelevant. Why are these rules here? This release style works. If you happen to be in the 1970s and a small indie company that is doing this for the love of the hobby, maybe you've just picked up your first printing press and you're delivering leaflets door to door, but not for a multi-billion-dollar company like Games Workshop. I'm sorry, but this doesn't really fly anymore. And yes, I can hear the critique. Yes, we can upload these rules online. Yes, there are probably already pictures of these rules online, and you can probably find them if you really go hunting for them. But why must fans scrimp in the dark underbelly of the internet to get things that should be easily provided to them? And why should they have to put in the legwork to do so? And who will even remember that this update happened? How do you even find out about these rules if you're not in the know? There is a knowledge barrier here, and there is an etherealness to rules that are released in this way. If it's not on the shelf in front of you, then you might not think about it, you might not know about it, you might not use these rules. So who cares if Beasts of Chaos are now strong? For who? Maybe for the competitive player who has to remember to buy this magazine on time, put the pages and stick them in his battle tome and go into the competitive scene and play games against people and go, oh sorry, some of my rules fell out of my book, oh. And here's the thing, since issue number 464, White Dwarf magazine is no longer being published in Japanese, and no doubt there are many other languages that are not supported by White Dwarf. So that means that if you were born in the right country, you don't get these rules, at least not unless someone is able to translate them for you. Or you just learn a whole different language, in which case I would not recommend Games Workshop materials for that because they're not speaking English. So sorry Kenji, you, no Beasts of Chaos update for you. So yeah, my Beastmen currently suck, and Games Workshop have now recognized that as a problem. But rather than simply fix them, they're now monetizing the solution. And they've bound that solution in a piece of paper that will only be sold for a limited period of time. And as we talk about this, the underlying issue becomes revealed, right? You see where this is going. This is all a microcosm of the hype cycle that is bound to the Codex and Battle Tome system. It is a teeny tiny peek at this entire model in action. And it's made all the more clear because of the small scale that it's operating on here. When a new codex is released for a big faction like Space Marines, it kind of gets hard to talk about the codicy system and unbind that from the fact that, you know, Space Marines are super bloated. There are lots of conflicting issues about a new codex for Space Marines, but not with Beasts of Chaos. Nobody cares about Beasts of Chaos. Beasts of Chaos will never be Space Marines. They are not a particularly popular army, and I would warn that even with all the support in the world that Games Workshop could give them, they would not sell spectacularly well. They are a niche army, and that's okay. I like them for that. I like their niche. There is space in this world, in this game, for a niche army, but that's not good enough for Games Workshop. Beasts of Chaos are not making the optimal amount of money. There would be no profit in a full-blown battle tome for Beasts of Chaos. As such, they haven't gotten a real update since September 2018. And they are not getting a battle tome update this month either, because Games Workshop know the Beasts of Chaos aren't popular enough. Beastmen are too weird, they're just not traditional. And they're not kind of weird in a sort of, oh, these guys are totally badass sort of way. They're weird in a, they're mooks kind of way. They're that kid that eats worms. They're just a mook faction for mooks. If they were in a movie, they would serve the greater antagonists. They wouldn't even have speaking rules. That's why they don't speak English, they just go moo. As a society, they have no plans. They're a dead end. They're all going to die, and nothing of value will be lost. They only serve to be killed by the hero. That's their role. That's why I love them. And you know, most people don't like a faction that eats their own vomit. Except for all those Nurgle guys. There's a big group of people who love Nurgle. I do not get that. So I am angry at this update, but not because I didn't get cool new units or 30 pages of lore, or even had any of my existing units buffed. In fact, I have had that last bit. I'm angry because I don't see how this ends, really. Games Workshop will continue to sell their rules in these strange Baroque tomes, or in disposable magazines for the riffraff that have the audacity to collect the less popular ranges, and I will have to continue lugging around extra pages in my battle tome. That is my fate. Tactica Imperialis recently released a video on the release schedule of Games Workshop, and I thought it was a very interesting video, and I've got a lot of thoughts on that subject as well. So I'll probably talk about that in a separate video, but there's a link down to Tactica Imperialis's content in the description of this video. And one of the interesting things that he did was he calculated out the average amount that a player would spend on rules in a single edition of Warhammer 40k. And on average, a player would spend around £150 or around $200 on mere administration, on rules, not fun miniatures or paints, just text on a page. And I don't want to belittle what amount of work goes into creating rules. I know there's tons of work, and I know that there's lots of testing that goes into the rules as well. But they're not fun to buy for players. We have to acknowledge that. They are an administrative task. They're like paying your taxes. It should be assumed that there are strong rules for your miniatures when you buy them, especially if you're buying them for a game, like you are when you buy miniatures for Age of Sigmar. And obviously, this amount of money the players are spending is only going to get higher. It's going to get worse. The Warhammer season model has arrived with full force. And I've come to the sad conclusion that I don't think that I can keep up. Many of my friends came to similar conclusions even before the release of Warhammer Seasons. And many of them sadly just dropped out of miniatures altogether, not just Warhammer. And so it's sad to say, but I sort of feel like I have to join them soon enough. I'm not sure if I can just keep up with these releases for Warhammer. Not miniatures altogether though. And so I say goodbye to Battle Tomes. Ironically not with the release of a Battle Tome, but with the release of something that I have actually been looking forward to for years now. An update to my beloved Beastman boys. But yeah, magazine update. No thanks. I think I'll try Age of Fantasy by one-page rules instead. At the very least, those rules are all online for free, and they're updated online too, and always available to downloads. And I quite enjoyed Grim Dark Future, and apparently the rules are very similar, so there's nothing to stop me from trying it. And this is the new marketplace. This is the competition that Games Workshop are up against these days. And I think it's about time that they realize that. So if this resonated with you at all, why not check out my Patreon at patreon.com/discoursminiatures. You can see my supporters on the screen here. Thank you so much, guys. And I want to give an extra special shout out to my Space Marine captains, Stephen Jackson and Earthwormia. Thank you so much for supporting the channel so generously. And I shall catch you all next time. Bye-bye. Games Workshop Delenda Est.
Oh, fuck. Hey, this isn't the 2020s. What? What are you? No, no, stay back. Stay away from me. Run off. No, no.